All right, let's just move on to how did you learn that Kirby had been killed or Kirby was dead? And when did you learn that?
I believe it was Sunday evening, would have been December the 4th of 2022. I believe it was Sunday. It may have been Saturday. I'm not positive on the date, but the sheriff's department called me. I get these calls all the time being the prosecutor. They want to know what to do.
Yeah, you're county prosecutor,
That's
right?
correct, yes. So they called me asking what to do. Somebody was at Kirby's house loading bags of silver and other coins into the back of a vehicle. They didn't know whether they should let these people go, leave them there, arrest somebody. They didn't know what to do. At that point in time, nobody knew who it belonged to. I didn't know who was arguing. I don't ask who these people are when they call me with those kind of questions.
Sure.
I intentionally don't ask that so that it doesn't taint my answer. My answer to them was, if there's two parties there and both of them are saying it's theirs, it's a civil matter. They need to go see a lawyer tomorrow morning. After we had the conversation, had completed all that, I asked them who they were talking about, and that's when, it may have been Chris McAllister that I talked to, I can't remember for sure. That's when they told me that it was Kirby Carpenter.
Kirby Carpenter died.
That's correct.
Okay. So at the time you received the call, well, when you gave them the advice that this property that had being taken or loaded into the car, did you know Kirby had died then by that time?
No.
Okay. All right. Now, at some point, you opened an estate for Kirby. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that conversation that I had, I believe, was on a Sunday evening, and then Monday morning I met with Kirby's mother and sister.
That would be Maddie Jane and Casey?
That's correct, and then opened the estate later that day.
All right, now, was a will ever located?
No, nobody could find a will anywhere when they came to me, and then in all my searching afterwards, I never found a will.
You do a lot of estate work.
I have in the past. I try to limit that too. I try to stay out of Chancery Court as much as I can.
Okay.
But yes.
I understand. But just for the jury's purpose, this is what we call dying intestate without a will.
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Now, what significance does that have to do as far as heirs go?
If you die intestate, your heirs are set by statute. So Kirby was not married, so everything he had would go to his children.
All right, and that would be Towns
and Enola.
All right, they would be the sole and only heirs.
That's correct.
And I believe, and we don't have an executor in an intestate estate, we have an administrator.
That's
that right?
correct. And
who's
executor
named the
is only if there's a will.
Right, and who was named the administrator?
Maddie Jane.
And that is by an order entered by a chancellor, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right. Now, as part of the administrator's duty and the estate attorney's duty, is part of that, is one of the duties to marshal what we call marshaling the assets of the estate?
That's correct. Once somebody is appointed as the administrator, they are responsible for the assets of the estate.
All right, and let me back up a little bit. You became aware at the time that some people had taken some things, various people had taken various items that would have been part of Kirby's estate. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. Maddie Jane had told me that she had taken some of the items, and that I believe Caitlin and possibly Jeff and Karen had taken some of the items from the house.
And what were your instructions to these people?
They needed to bring all of that stuff back so that it could be secured and inventoried.
All right. So that's what you do, as you're marshaling the estates, the assets of the estate, you're inventorying.
That's right, yeah. I began an inventory the following day. So I opened the estate on Monday, began doing an inventory on Tuesday the 6th.
And I believe you got your two boys to help you one night, is that right?
I did. I think that was probably the following week. The first time I went out to Kirby's house on the 6th, I had no idea the amount of stuff we were talking about.
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't expect everything that was there to be there.
All right. So you went out there on the 6th.
That's correct.
All right. And who was there? Who was at the house at that time?
Maddie Jane was there. I believe Casey was there. Caitlin was there. Caitlin's mother was there. And Enola was there. It seems like there were a couple of other people around. I don't recall who they were.
All right. Could you generally describe the inside of the house?
It was a lot. There
Was
was
it orderly?
stuff everywhere.
Was it tidy, orderly?
No, there was stuff everywhere. I mean, their bedroom was clothing. There was items all over the dresser, the chest of drawers. There was a room in the back that had a safe. I call it the safe room. There were like 3 safes in there, and then another little locking cabinet. And you had to pick and choose where you even walked to get in there.
All right.
And stuff was literally stacked to the ceiling.
All right. And I believe there were 2 or 3 trailers outside.
There was as much stuff outside as there was inside. The garage, when you walk into the house, there's a 2-car garage, and that garage.
Is it a garage or a carport?
It was a garage.
Okay.
It had garage doors. And one side of that garage was just packed full of stuff. The other side, there was a walkway, but other than the walkway, it was packed full of stuff. That's how you went in. That's how most people seem to be going in the house. That's how I went in the house when I got there. Outside was, I guess, a portable carport that had a vehicle. It had a car under it. It had a motorcycle maybe under it. Seems like there were a bunch of gas cans, just stuff. There was a camper in the driveway. There were several enclosed trailers out there. There was another storage building in the yard as well that you could barely walk in.
All right. You mean one of those storage buildings you might get at Lowe's or Home Depot?
Yeah, it was a little bigger. It was a little nicer than that. Somebody had built this one. It was bigger than
All right.
something like that.
Now, is it true that did you tell Maddie Jane to put locks on the trailers?
I did. I
Why?
told her, well, it was her responsibility to secure all of the property.
All right.
That was the easy stuff that was accessible. Everything else, for the most part, they could shut the garage doors and lock the door to the house, and nobody could get in to get to any of it.
Were you ever made aware of a concern about the defendant, Jeff Spence, taking silver from the house?
Yes, on several different occasions. Obviously, the night that law enforcement called me, he was allegedly taking bags of silver. I was told on a couple of different occasions that he had gotten other items out of the home as well.
All right. Now, you had, be a fair statement that you had a lot of stuff to inventory, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And did you attempt to find a safe place to store?
I did. It took me probably a week to find somewhere to put all of the stuff.
I think you tell the jury where you tried to locate it.
I went through everything I could think of. I initially went to the sheriff's department. The sheriff said he didn't have enough room to store all the stuff. My next stop was at the Chantry building. I went to the Chantry clerk's office to find out. I knew they had a safe there, a vault. Mm-hmm. So I went up there to see if I could move the stuff in there. They didn't have enough room for it and really didn't want all the stuff in there. I represent, my law firm also represents the Board of Supervisors, and I knew that the county had recently gotten the National Guard armory back from the Mississippi National Guard. So that was my next thought. I contacted the sheriff, asked him if we could use that vault. We had to track down the combination to get into the vault. Once we did that, we went and looked at it, decided or I guess I was the only one that went up there. So I went and looked at it, decided it was big enough to hold most everything that needed to be moved. And then I believe it was on the 13th, the following week, when I went back and did an additional inventory. There was enough, I guess, contention about who's taking what out of the house that I didn't feel comfortable leaving everything there anymore. So I had my boys with me. We loaded up one of the enclosed trailers. We loaded my truck. We loaded, seems like that may have been the night we loaded stuff into Kirby's truck and took all of that to the armory.
All right, so all this is and then later on, I believe you put some stuff at your office?
Yes, that was a month or two down the road.
All right,
yes.
Down the road. But so at this point, everything that's been inventoried, and you're, I'm assuming, writing this down,
Absolutely.
is at the armory.
Everything that I took out of the house went to the armory. I didn't take everything that we were inventorying. And the reason for that was there were 3 gun safes there. I didn't see a reason to move the stuff out of those gun safes. I didn't think anybody was going to come in and take the safes out of the room. Mm-hmm. I had a deputy there with me, and we changed the code with Caitlin's help. We changed the code on the safes. She had already changed them. At some point after Kirby's death, Caitlin had changed the codes on the safe so that nobody could get in them. She opened the safes for me, and at that point we again changed the codes. The only person, I had the code to it, and the investigator that went out there with me had the code to it.
Who was that?
Josh Bateman.
Okay. And the stuff at the armory, so you've got stuff in the safe, and then you pull the trailer in there?
That's right. I pulled the stuff in, I pulled the trailer in, pulled Kirby's truck in, and we unloaded everything out of the trailer, put it in the vault, locked the vault so that everything was secure.
And at some point, the armory was broken into, is that right?
That's right. I believe that would have been sometime late January.
Of 23?
That's correct.
No, I'm sorry, 24.
No, it would have been 23.
Okay.
Yeah, the estate was opened in December of 22. I believe it was late January of 23.
All right.
Chris McAllister had called and said they were looking for something in the truck, wanted to know where the truck was. When we took that stuff up there, I intentionally did not tell anyone where it was. Me and my 2 boys were the only people that, and my law partner, were the only people that knew where this stuff was.
And the sheriff?
And the sheriff. My understanding from the sheriff was nobody in his office knew where it was either.
Okay. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in there?
That's correct.
All right. And I don't believe anybody was ever apprehended for that break-in?
No.
Was anything taken?
No. When they broke into the armory, they cut the power coming into it. They pried the back door open. They beat on every window of Kirby's truck. You could see the marks from a crowbar on every, or a hammer or something, where they used to beat on the door or the windows to the truck. They tried to pry a couple of the doors open, and finally were successful in breaking one of the windows.
But they didn't take anything?
There was nothing in the
Nothing
truck.
in the truck?
I had taken all of the guns and all of the stuff out of the truck and put it in the vault.
All right, all right. And I believe, and you may not know this, well, being county prosecutor, that armory's been broken into before, hasn't it?
I think it has.
I recall it too.
There's just not much up there. It kind of sits up there by itself.
Right. All right, so then you start putting stuff into your office, is that right?
So I don't recall exactly when it was. I believe it was sometime around March. The landlord for the gold and silver store, Kirby had rented that building. The landlord was ready to do something with it.
The stuff inside the store?
That's correct. Okay. He was ready to do something with his store, so we had to get the stuff out. By that time, we had employed an auction company, or were trying to employ them. We were working with the auction company.
And why'd you tell the jury why you do that?
Something has to be done with all the stuff of the estate. The kids obviously can't wait until they're 21 years old to deal with the property. We can't store it for that period of time, so we were going to have to sell the stuff.
So Towns at that point is 4, 5?
I believe Towns was 5 or 6.
Okay, and then
Enola was a baby. She was several months old.
So you sell it, you take the money and stick it in a guardianship account of some sort?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So we had enlisted the help of the auction company. So I met Maddie Jane and the folks from the auction company over at the gold and silver store. When we went in, I thought Maddie Jane had already removed all that stuff. When I went in, I saw just, Kirby didn't keep a whole lot of valuable stuff there. Mm-hmm. The real valuable stuff he kept with him.
On his person?
On his person or in his truck, so that he would come and go. But when I saw some of the stuff that was there, it was pretty valuable stuff. Mm-hmm. So we took those items back to my office. That was late one afternoon. I had to be out of town the next day.
Was this you and your boys took it?
No, it was, my boys were not involved then. They were probably in school. They were 15, 16 at the time. Okay. So it would have been me, Maddie Jane, and the folks from the auction company. I don't remember if Casey was there. She was there for a whole lot of the meetings. She was involved pretty heavily in all that stuff. Okay. Trying to help her mother.
Right.
We moved. It wasn't a ton of stuff. It was one trip with 4 or 5 of us taking the stuff back to my office. We put it in my conference room so that we could inventory it.
Okay.
And then I was going to take it to the armory and lock it up in the vault.
Even though these items hadn't been inventoried yet, you have a general recollection of what was there?
Yeah, there were. One thing I remember that just sticks out is Kirby had a picture on the wall that was a sheet of, I believe it was dollar bills or $2 bills that were uncut. So it's like just a sheet from the mint that was up on the wall. I made sure that came out. There were some coins, just random silver coins that were in there. That was really about it of any value. I don't know exactly what it was, but
if it had been something really valuable, you think you'd remember it?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, so the only people that knew about this were you, Maddie Jane as the administrator or administratrix, possibly Casey and the auction company.
That's right, and I guess obviously the people that work in my office would have seen that as well.
And at some point, your office was broken into, is that right?
That night.
That night?
Yeah, I left town. I believe it was that night I left town to go. I had the meeting early the next morning. Got up the next morning. Our meeting started fairly early, 7:30 or 8 o'clock. And I get a phone call from my paralegal that when she got to the office, the back door was jarred open.
All right. And when you got back to evaluate what had been taken,
They took almost everything that was in that pile of stuff that we had brought back from the store. They took a pistol out of my desk drawer.
Mm-hmm. Your pistol?
My pistol, yes, absolutely, it was mine. Took my pistol. We have an accountant that shares office space with us. They had broken into his office, gone through his desk. To the best of my knowledge, they didn't take anything. They took a fireproof safe that my law partner keeps in his office, or used to keep in his office, doesn't anymore. He had a fireproof safe that just had deeds and paperwork, that type of stuff in it.
So it was just a grab and go?
That's right. Well, they were there for some time because they went through everybody's desk. I found it odd, actually. I had a silver coin in my desk drawer that they didn't get. I don't know why.
And I don't believe anybody has ever been apprehended.
Not to the best of my knowledge.
All right. And again, only 4 or 5 people knew that the estate stuff was there.
That's right.
But they didn't just hit the estate stuff, they hit your partner.
Yeah, they went through every desk in my office.
Okay. And do you have an idea of, you hadn't inventoried the stuff from the estate in your office at that point?
No, I had not had time to do it at that point.
So you don't know how much everything was worth, but would you think it was worth a lot of money?
No, I would guesstimate it being $3,000 or $4,000.
Okay. And in the grand scheme of things in Kirby's estate, is that a great deal of money?
No.
All right. So you turn the inventory over to the auction company. I assume they finished the inventory of what was found.
They did, yeah. I did the inventory for, gosh, I tried to go through it with my office staff, with the help of my office staff. We tried to do the inventory for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks maybe. And once we realized there was the volume of stuff that was there and we were going to have the auction anyway, I discussed it with Maddie Jane, and we decided the best, I believe Caitlin was actually involved in that conversation. We discussed it and all agreed that we would let the auction company do the inventory.
All right, and they conduct the finished inventory, conduct the sale, they take a percentage as their fee, is that right?
That's right.
So that's essentially being paid by the estate.
That's right, yeah. There was no point in them, the estate paying me to do an inventory and then turning around and paying the auction company to do the same thing. Because they were gonna have to take each item, they were gonna have to, figure out what it was and how to market it.
All right, and the auction company provided you a final inventory of, because let me back up. The administratrix has to make an accounting, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, and to make that accounting, she has to have the inventory, and which would also list the sales proceeds that were generated from the sales of the items.
That's correct, yes.
All right. So, do you have an idea, or can you tell the jury what the total value of Kirby's estate of the stuff that was found to be? Including the land that's been sold.
Stuff that was auctioned, I believe, was about $1.5 million. All
right. And there's still stuff that's unsold?
There's still a house and 120 acres. There is another gun safe full of gold coins, a couple of guns, and some other, I guess, more personal items that Caitlin and Whitney wanted to set aside for the children.
All right. And being familiar with Kirby for 12 years, knowing his business, did the estate as inventoried by you and the auction company contain much cash?
No, there was very little cash. He had $2,800 in his pocket, and I don't remember much cash at all being in those safes.
All right. What about gold?
No, there was very little gold. There was a few small gold pieces, but it was odd to me how little gold and cash there was.
I was going to ask you, were you surprised by this, being familiar with this business?
Yeah, I was very surprised by that, considering what he did.
And at this point in his life, he was 36 years old, was he winding down his gold, silver, and coin business?
Not to the best of my knowledge.